Welcome to ShiftWatch. I'm your host, Starbuck. In this special edition of ShiftWatch, it's going out after some significant energies aligned a few days ago. You may have heard about Jimmy Blanchette, who over the last several years has begun to share his experiences framed from his mathematical background. He has, in fact, initiated contact with other dimensional aspects and received responses. The first section deals with the initial reason Jimmy found me just a few days ago, and it had to do with validating Lemurian efforts in the Groom Creek area within Arizona. After our session was over, it was clear that there were other indications of why some of us were coming together now. The mathematical aspects of his efforts triggered me to involve Dave Wallace. After we all stepped back a bit to understand what was coming together, it was clear to Dave and myself that those audio patterns, the responses, were things familiar to us from past interactions, and that those downloads we associated with the ability to interpret the information they're sending were going to come in handy now. Jimmy had established a contact exchange, and we believe we are in the precipice of a new level of comprehension. You can look forward to an exchange the end of next week with Jimmy, Dave Wallace, and myself.
So this is what you're going to hear is an extract of an audio book. You know, the Mount Shasta, it's called Mount Shasta or something, right? Mount Shasta, home of the ancients. And what you're going to hear is the narrator, obviously, but essentially translating what Bonnie was talking about. And let me just play this about the Lemurian, so it connects to Lemuria.
The safest places where the Lemurians are setting up refugee camps right now are Phoenix, Flagstaff, Prescott, and Albuquerque. She says they are building an underground complex at Groom Creek, near Prescott, Arizona.
So she said they are building a rescue underground complex in Groom Creek near Prescott, Arizona, which is miles away from where I live here. I found this very interesting, and obviously your connection with all that aspect. So a few days ago, I was kind of guided, if you will, to investigate this. I didn't know why, because my research was not about that specifically, but I was kind of guided through it. So let me just play you a video here. It's about 3 minutes, and I did some discoveries regarding how all these ancient sacred sites are all lined up around the earth like an equator. And I'm going to talk about what I found about this. And I put a teaser on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, just, you know, before showing these results. So if you don't mind, I'm going to play it because it's going to set the stage for what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to take a bio break while it's playing. So let me just get this started here. Here we go.
Dude, that is spot on. Let me tell you, it warms my heart that you understand the grid work. Because regardless of where where the land masses exist today, because back in times when Lemuria sunk, Atlantis sunk, the land masses were very different. So it's more important for us to understand the grid work and how that functions, but we want to see it from our third dimensional physical reality. The space that we're moving into is fourth dimensional.
Yep.
And although it is physical, we're passing through that to get to fifth dimensional awareness. It's not perceptible where we are and is not bound by the physical rules that we see. However, it's very much attached to the grid work, Jimmy.
Yes,
and so when
is.
that's your frame of reference, man, you get it, and people need to hear it from other sources so that they can start to get in touch with how all this is going to function. Us little humans want to understand what the shift is going to happen. Is there going to be catastrophic things that happen? You can count on it. There have been these areas that are predisposed to these higher frequencies already.
Yep.
I know them as golden Taya allotments, and people have been drawn to these places for reasons they didn't understand.
That's right.
Some of them went to clear it. Some of them went to just be there, but that's already a factor in all of this. And sooner or later, the last solar jolt is going to take us and push us into the next, well, pushing Earth into it. We're just sentient critters hanging on for the ride.
Oh yeah, that's right, on a little rock. That's absolutely right.
Let's take a look at California, see what's going on out here along the West Coast. Still got Nevada popping out here. And quite a bit within the last hour. A bunch of ones stirring up out here. And this area has been an area of interest here recently with, looks like, well, about over 100 earthquakes in the last couple days in this area of Nevada. We got a couple different swarming regions in a linear fashion out here. There is various fault systems out here, such as the Stonewall Mountain Fault and a couple other ones out here as well. And then you got these down here, this little Stonewall Flat faults, a couple different segments of it showing some activity as well. So that's a lot of earthquake activity, 145, with the largest being a 3.2, and that was about 3 days ago or so. Since then, we've just seen a continuous earthquake activity out here. I don't believe it's volcanic activity unless this is a super volcano caldera, which probably isn't. Definitely related to stress events out here, because if you put together the activity that we've seen further down south around Las Vegas, areas up north here around Walker Lake, it makes sense here that this is pure stress related events out here. That's kicking up out in the Nevada desert area. And of course, all that's a sign here of the accompanied strain that's produced along the plate boundary. We've seen various areas here of California experience some uptick here recently in the last few weeks, and now we got Nevada kicking up here. So gotta keep an eye on things out here. Elevated activity means the elevated possibility of seeing some larger scale quake activity. The question is, where is it going to be? Lots of movement out here recently in the Southern California area and Nevada. These earthquakes coming in all over the place, from the surface level down to about 8 miles below the surface there. But hard to say. A lot of these quakes have not been reviewed by a seismologist. That one's been reviewed, so it looks like they're slowly starting to catch up on them. Maybe they're starting to catch the attention there of the seismologists with the USGS. Because it is kind of important, right? 100 earthquakes, 145 earthquakes in the last few days is not a little deal.
So how it all started, 2013, if we fast forward, I became aware of a contact modality called CE5, which I'm sure you're very much aware of. I had heard about this contact modality. I was very interested in it. And I said, look, I was always into the universe. Since my childhood, I was reading stuff about astrophysics and astronomy and all this stuff. So I said, I had seen some videos on YouTube. I said, I'm going to try this contact modality, the CE5. But since I had this very large or powerful radio station capable of bouncing wave of the moon, I said, why not putting some kind of message together, some kind of binary code message, and broadcast that, towards the sun, towards the moon, and see if something happens. So, so this is what I did. So I created essentially a binary code message. I still have, I can make you hear it, and I broadcasted that. So what at the time I was intending to make to put a CE5 group together to do future contact work with that group. And so I had identified the site. At the time I lived in California, in Ventura, California. So I had identified a site deep in the valley, and I said, I'm going to go to that location to scout the site for future contact work. So I had never been there before, but I located the site on Google Earth. But in the days prior to that, I broadcasted an invitation message, and in that message, I was indicating the coordinate, the longitude, latitude of that site, the time and date where I intended to go. So, and I have actually, I can show you a brief video of that message. I have it here. I documented everything through my journey, so I can show you some evidence of it. So this is the binary code message.
You're built the same way I am. Look, we do those things for ourselves. There's our validation when we get back.
Absolutely, absolutely. I documented every experience that I had. So I had a record for as you said, for my own sanity, if you will, and it's useful today. So this is the binary code message. And what I did at the time also, each sentence of the message was encoded at a different solfeggio frequency. If you look at these frequencies and this binary code, they're all different solfeggio. So each sentence was a solfeggio frequency. So here how it sounded. So this is what I blasted. I blasted this message, it takes, it's a 30 seconds message or so. So I blasted this message throughout the solar system. And, mind you, at that power that I'm using, my radio station is capable of deploying 250,000 watts of radiated power on 432 megahertz and about 150,000 watts of power on 144.1 megahertz. So this radio wave really, there's enough power to hit the, to cover the entire solar system and far, far beyond. So I said, if there's any intelligence out there, they may catch it, right? So yes. What happened next changed my life, unsurprisingly. So I went to the site, and I have a video I'm going to show you of that first interaction here that I can show. So I went to that site, and I brought with me a handheld radio, which I had tuned to the same frequency that I had broadcasted this binary code message with. So I went to the site, and again, I was really going there just to screen the site for future contact work. I was not expecting anything, really anything. So I got there maybe 15, 20 minutes after the arrival. I sat down. I said, I'm going to relax, meditate a bit. There was a beautiful lake in front of me. It was deep in the valley, far from any human installations. There was not even a cell signal at that location. It was very far remote. And I had, again, brought this handheld radio with me, and I just put it on the rooftop of my car while I was relaxing in the chair. And a few minutes later, this radio started interacting like crazy. And I had been using this radio for many months for satellite communications and things like that. And that radio had never behaved this way. So I said, and to be honest, I didn't even click that first on that day that it was a reply to my message. It didn't even cross my mind that it was a possibility, right? So I realized it only after the fact. But I have a recording, so I'm going to show you what happens with the radio.
It's 2:16 in the morning. The radio is very active right now.
So this is the interaction that happened. So again, I didn't click. Actually, I got annoyed. I said, why is that radio so noisy tonight? You know, I'm here, I was trying to relax, meditate, and this radio was going nuts, right? So anyway, I didn't click. So I packed everything back up and went back home, right? Happy I found a site for future contact work. The next day, and and after that, I was really puzzled. I said, it's very strange, because I was in the middle of nowhere, no cell signal, radio never ever behaved this way. So I was really puzzled. So I started checking on the internet and saw people who had, done CE5, and it was showing some interactions, from the intelligence with their electronic equipment, like the tri-field meter, magnetometer, and things like that. And I said, holy cow, I mean, was this a reply? So that week I kept the radio on my belt, and going to the grocery stores and to the bank, I said, if there was some kind of interference, it's going to happen while I'm downtown, right? While there's some kind of interference around. Nothing happened. The radio stayed completely silent. So the following week, I said, I'm going to go back to that site again. I really got a good taste of it. So I repeated the same protocol, encoded the message, time and date, location, broadcasted that, and then went back to the site. And this time I was with a friend. And we got there, and sure enough, 15, 20 minutes after arrival, the radio started behaving exactly the same way. And then we started asking questions, and I had very clearly that it felt like there was some intelligence behind it, because it was like interacting with us, right, in some way. So it was very, very interesting. So this is how my story started, really. After that, I purchased a night vision camera, and went back to that site almost every weekend by myself, because putting a group together was, people didn't show up and all that. So it became a very personal experience. So I was just doing that on my own. So I went back to the site, and I recorded a lot of interactions. I had many sightings. One day I was just taking a bio break, and there was a forest in front of me, and the entire forest just lit up, right? There was some kind of light. So that's how my story started, and it went on from there. I'm going to show you also another interaction, I think, which is interesting. So I developed techniques to encode messages, to broadcast them. It's like it's image. I'm able to essentially broadcast literal images with text, where I'm making requests or share information with the intelligence. And when the intelligence interact with my radios, for instance, it's not radio wave. They are not using radio waves. It's some other form of energy, because I can put the radio in a Faraday cage, disconnect the antennas, and the interaction is still happening. So they are funneling some kind of energy through the radio. The radio is
vibratory, buddy.
Yeah,
you know that it's vibratory.
Yeah. Exactly.
And we can't translate that into scientific terms yet. People like you and Dave are the ones that help us couple the scientific aspects of this metaphysical shit that we're going through right now. You guys are the ones that help thread it together, because you already have that mindset, but you're also open to experience the things you've never experienced before. So my take on a lot of this, and your first instance was like mine. You come home away from those things thinking, what the hell was that? Until you have a few more, you got no frame of reference to put it into context. And now that you have, I hope you're beginning to understand, since 2017, it's your vibration, my friend, that called them here. Yes, you might use all those protocols, but they're showing up because they sense your vibration when you're in the area.
So the sound we hear is this message encoded in an audio file, and that's the audio file that I broadcasted.
You shouldn't be surprised by this anymore.
No, I'm not anymore. I started at the beginning. All this obviously went now into more consciousness interactions, if you will. But this was my early days, if you will. Give you some background. A very powerful energy. Okay, so here's an idea. So this is how it started. Then I'm just trying to go a bit in order of chronological order. So after that, I moved to, make a long story short, I documented all my sightings, you know, and all that. I have a ton of videos. I will show you in a minute, because there's one that particularly feeds into what we're going to be talking about today. So I moved to Arizona, and you know, I set up cameras. I had never done it on my antenna system, you know, on the back side. And sure enough, I started realizing that when I was broadcasting, you know, in space, and we see here the antennas, my 4 antenna system, I was broadcasting towards the moon. I started, you know, having a lot of different manifestations from different civilizations. This was in 2021, December 21st. This was a triangular craft. I was broadcasting the golden ratio frequency. I was actually doing a test to see if this will trigger an interaction, because this frequency is really important. I'm giving another example. I mean, daytime sightings. I've had nighttime ships passing above my house. And this one to the upper left is very interesting, because this ship was passing above my house and it was huge. And when I saw it, telepathically, I said 3 words. I said, "Flash at me." And this is what happened. This is the flash. This is what happened. And I have the video. I will show the video with it.
You asked.
Yes.
You should expect.
That's right.
Look,
yeah,
you vibrate at their level, Jimmy. I love seeing this. I like communicating with freaking experiencers, not talking heads, talking about somebody else's experience. And there was a purpose, my friend, why you documented all this for the rest of us. The people are going to need to understand the physical parts of this. If there's any hope that they're going to see the same things we see. And the clock is freaking ticking.
It is.
Look at all the solar activity, Jimmy.
Mhm.
Tell me if our expectation scientifically is that solar maximum is going to last into 2026. You don't think the shift is going to happen sometime between now and then, with even just the slightest little brush of
Yes.
solar storms are triggering G5 storms? This ain't normal. And look at all the seismic activity. It all points to the same stuff.
Yeah.
If you're not in tune with the idea that the shift in consciousness is coming to the earth, then you're missing out on what's going on. And those of us that
Absolutely.
are in touch with it are here to kind of just set the stage.